Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel, and on this channel we'll talk all about how to create comics, and I'm sharing everything I've learned after creating my own comic, The Book of Contradictions, for more than 6 years. But we'll also talk about art, how to create art, how to enjoy creating art, and how to do art professionally and earn money with your art. If any of this is interesting to you, please feel free to engage with the buttons down below. It really helps the channel, and I hope channel in turn can help you. For you guys who are probably just watching my regular video, just a regular update, but I actually wasn't filming for, I wanna say, like 2 or 3 months. The thing is, I actually pre-recorded quite a bunch of videos before, and then I just didn't feel like filming, and I actually didn't need filming because all the videos that I recorded with posting twice a week, I had them scheduled for 4 to 5 months ahead. But today I'm getting back to my filming schedule, let's just say. And the funny thing is that I wasn't filming for so long that I literally, by the time I decided to grab my camera, there was a spider web and a spider on my like on this setup, on the ring light with camera and with a microphone. And it's not a joke, I'm being very serious right now, and it was hilarious. And I know it might sound that my place is probably super dirty if this is happening, but to be fair, I live on the harborfront side, like on the lakeshore side. My windows and balcony go out to Lake Ontario just really right away, so we get a lot of spiders. So it's like totally a normal situation just because of humidity, I suppose. Nonetheless, it's very symbolic of what was happening. But anyway, for today's video, I want to talk to you about how I typically start my chapters for my comic, and yeah, just go into details of what it takes, what steps I go through, and how I start. So the reason being that I decided to talk about it is because this video is coinciding with me actually being in the process of starting the chapter. I'm already a couple of finished pages in and I'm drawing the first scene. I decided there is no better time for me just to talk about how I'm starting the chapter, and I have some b-roll, some processes that I'm doing, so since I'm recording right now, I thought I might just throw them around here too. If you wanted to see me do this, talk about this, and show this more in more details, there is a podcast that I have that's going on Monday there. I literally showing everything I've drawn over the weekend, and I've been sharing me starting working on the page for some weeks already, because like there you can actually go and see what it takes, like actually drawing wise. But here I decided to talk about more in general the process, how it goes. So first of all, the first thing of me drawing a chapter is obviously would be writing a chapter, and this process coincided with me drawing previous chapters. I never finish a chapter and just start writing another chapter. I usually have some writing going on already. I have planned for the chapter already, and I recently discovered that I'm apparently a pantser style writer when it comes to comics. So even though I have certain plan for where the chapter that's going to be next is going to go, it's not completely written. So I have this idea of what's going to come next. I have the overarching idea of what's going to happen next to the story. So this part of like writing or storytelling is kind of done. Like whatever is going to happen in the next chapter generally is not a secret to me. I know that. I plan it as I create chapters prior. So I create them, I already have a vision for next chapter. Then I go into outlining. I call this process outlining. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be calling outlining. Maybe I'm using English wrong, but the process of outline that is called is that I go and actually sketch out each page, and I go page by page in chronological order, and I'm not really minding the like very raw style of drawing. I usually don't care how exactly I'm drawing that. The idea is just I have to kind of block out scenes, I have to block out panels, I have to block out the pacing and the dynamic of the story, and also to me just important to see where the story flows, which action that I was thinking is going to happen, how it's actually happening, and which I feel is not supposed to happen, and which I feel is going to be beneficial to add. So this is the part that, even though it really consists of me just drawing rough lines, to me this is the part I would call writing, because this is where the story is actually get planned, even though in imagery form. I literally just go with the flow. I have the idea of what this chapter is supposed to be about. I have the idea like where this chapter falls within the context of the whole story, and then I just go to the level of panels and I start drawing, and I just let myself kind of be free and go with where the drawing is taking me, where the story is taking me. So this is where kind of penciling my comic away, and usually this process happens before I finish previous chapter. And actually not usually, it always happens before I finish the previous chapter. In fact, I'm usually in the middle of the previous chapter. I want to have this outline done and this kind of like writing for the chapter done when I'm like months away of touching it. So usually I will be, for example, as it happened right now, I was in the middle of creating chapter 8, and while I was doing this, I was outlining, doing this blocking writing stage for chapter 9. Then the next stage that I'm gonna start doing is also overlapping typically with the stage of me working on the chapter prior. Usually it happens when I'm working on the very last scene of previous chapter. This is where I like to handle lines and like to draw them through. At least I want to draw through the lines for the first scene of the new chapter. So what I mean by drawing through, as I mentioned previously, my lines are horrific, and it's not even drawing. Like, you will be questioning if I personally can do drawing at all, because it's really just for me to just block out what's happening. It can be really just stick figures. But this is where, if I'm in the very end of previous chapter, in the very last scene, and I have maybe 4 pages left to complete the whole scene and the whole chapter, this is where I would do small pauses while finishing that chapter to go and draw my lines properly to make them functional. I don't necessarily want to go and create these beautiful lines. They can show everybody and they look pretty. This is not the goal. The goal is just create the proper base for me, so the lines help me to draw colors rather than make me struggle. So this is where the lines I actually draw through, like facial expressions. I just draw poses. Like, I don't go into details. Sometimes I don't draw fingers at all. It's just more to solidify which pose is here, which facial expression is here. I like to draw like backgrounds, characters, so it's not just blob, so I just can look and assess how much is happening in the scene, and the scene becomes functional. So this is what I like to do at this stage. I used to prep the lines and make the lines proper for the duration of the whole chapter, but recently I decided, you know, it takes me away too much from finishing the chapter that I'm working on, so I would do it just for the first scene, and as I'm working on the scene, I will just work the lines for the next scene and then for the next scene, so I don't have to, when I'm finishing one chapter, so I'm not taken away for like several days to just draw this line, that I can be just taken away for several hours or just for one day, and then I can go back. So it's not like some distance between, because as I mentioned before, like in some of my previous videos, I like to not take a lot of breaks, like not a lot of time between my drawing process, because the moment you start drawing something else, I feel like some efficiency and fastness and like speed of what you're doing just goes away a little bit, because if it's like such a habit to do it every day or long times every day, you have this extra efficiency, and if you have a 3-day break, you kind of lose this a little bit, like maybe like micro muscle memory, not like the whole bunch of it, but just some little things, some little tricks. Like, for example, you remember which color you tend to grab for this crease, you know which, you know, shade you want to grab for the hair when they're lit. You like just small decisions, they're fresh in your brain, and then that's why it's faster. So once the lines are worked through, this is where I go in this prep stage. Usually by this time, not usually, yeah, by this time I finished the previous chapter, so my focus is completely on this new chapter to come. So I have this stage of preparation, of meditation and thinking about it. Mostly it is, I'm thinking, okay, what I can improve for this chapter. I like to consider always like my next chapter as a stage of improvement for my comic. It's not necessarily something that I want to do and make sure like every chapter is better than another. The bare minimum, it has to be consistent, but every time I try to see if I can make it better, if I can make it faster, if I can draw through better, and if I can shorten the time basically. And I just analyze and see what I can do, what I want to do. If there's nothing I want to do, I just want to continue and just keep the quality the same, it's fine for me. But at the same time, I always ask myself and see what improvement was done in the previous chapter. Do I want to take it to the next level? Actually, in this case of me starting chapter 9, what I decided is that I don't want to actually bump up the quality of the like details, because I feel like I have a lot of details already, and if I go with more details, it's gonna start slowing me down, and it's gonna create a certain bar in details that I might not want to commit in case of this very long comic. So this is what kind of I decided, okay, let's continue kind of what I did in chapter 8 and just keep going with that. So this is what I decided for this particular chapter. For chapter 8, for example, I decided that I want to draw it more detailed. Before, my backgrounds were less focused, like characters was the main focus of my drawing attempts, and the backgrounds were like less details. But I realized if backgrounds are very detailed, then if you put it in every panel becomes very detailed already because of just the background. So this is what I did for chapter 8, and I am very happy, and this is what I'm continuing in chapter 9. Another thing that I always do is like preparation stage is that I revisit locations and characters that are appearing in this new chapter that were appearing before. If this chapter is a total continuation, if I'm ended with one set of characters in one location, the previous chapter, and we pick up exactly where we left off in the next chapter, that I don't do this, there's no point. But if, for example, this chapter opens up with the scene, with the characters and the location location that, for example, were not in the previous chapter or were in the very beginning of the previous chapters. It means I drew them like months ago. I just go back and revisit and see how exactly I drew those characters, remind myself of the details of their clothing and just all of that details, and also thinking about the location. It's kind of tricky when you start the scene in the same location that, for example, the reader is not that familiar yet, and the scene is taking place is, for example, different time of day or different weather, and you still want the reader to recognize the location, but at the same time you cannot draw location exactly the same, at least me. Like, usually people, when they, for example, draw cartoons, they try to keep the weather and everything the same. It's like day and night situation, or sunset, but usually people try day night. I like to have different weather conditions, I like to have different time of day, I like to have different like skyscape, I like to have different clouds, different types of clouds, again kind of different weather. To me it's very important, and I'm creating problems for myself because then it's harder for my readers to realize the location. Maybe I should start doing like a movie thing, like, I don't know, Toronto, Ontario, or New York, Los Angeles, California. I don't know. It's not that bad of idea if my point is make readers recognize the location. Yeah, I think it's not as clean, but I guess it's important that the reader understands. But basically I revisit the location. I remember which things were where, what characters were wearing, or if they're supposed to be wearing different things, I still consider what clothes they're wearing them. Maybe something from their clothes from that scene remained. So this is something that I keep in mind and just strategize and prepare how I'm gonna draw my characters. I also like changing characters' clothes if necessary, like if it makes sense for the scene for them to have different clothes, and for example show them in different hairstyles as well. Hairstyles is my story, they're gonna represent status a little bit, so the hairstyle is different. You know, it's character change the status, or they're unwinding for not the night, or it's early morning, they didn't set their hair yet. I just like to make it different. So yeah, so this is kind of a retrospection that I'm doing. Usually at this stage I just grab the reference sheet that I prepared, so I have reference sheet for each character. It's like it's a Photoshop kind of file with a reference for their face, their skin color, their eye color, their hair color, the clothes, the different jewelry they might have, so all the references are there, and I like to keep them with adjustment layers that adjust colors and contrast and whatnot. And when I go to another scene, I like to just readjust those colors so it matches the color scheme of this new scene, but the reference stays the same. So this is where I'm preparing that. This is where I'm Googling, going to Pinterest and deciding like overall look that I want to have for the scene, the color scheme, and preparing all my references. So this is the preparation stage. Then I go in the stage when I'm actually starting doing something, and which is not yet preparing pages. I draw my strips for my backgrounds, and I mentioned on this channel many times, and I'm gonna link videos up here how I'm doing my backgrounds, but basically I'm doing like in the animation type of way, where I'm drawing my backgrounds and it's a long background strip that can be reused throughout the whole scene. And I'm doing sometimes different sides of the background, and a fun fact, I work in VFX and I'm a matte painter, which means I'm creating backgrounds for movies. So this is kind of like my obsession with backgrounds and how much they can lift the quality of the whole experience. It's very personal. This is where I'm starting preparing the background. How I'm doing it's not like I'm drawing all the backgrounds first. First I'm assessing the scene that I'm starting to draw. I'm seeing what backgrounds need to be done, and that pick one. I see background that appears in most amount of panels, and I'm starting drawing with this background. Because honestly, I like drawing characters. If I'm gonna go and just draw the backgrounds for a long period of time, it's gonna take me out from the, you know, again, this kind of like connection between my brain and my hands of how to draw characters, clothes and whatnot. I don't like to like just go and be in one task that is different for a long time. I like to just always be present in everything, like coloring characters. This is what I want my RAM constantly be busy with this, so I don't want to take a break from doing it for too long, even if it is a drawing, like backgrounds. I start drawing backgrounds. If the background is still a sketch, I will still put this sketchy background behind my characters and start drawing the characters. Then I jump on the background again, draw it through a little bit, and then when it has like higher resolution and whatnot, I'm gonna throw it in and replace the background, that the sketchy one that I used, with a high res one. So this is kind of how it goes. And also what is very important for me when I'm just starting to draw my first pages, and usually I start drawing them kind of simultaneously with the background, is I kind of have to finish 2 or 3 first pages to kind of get grip on how the chapter is going to look like. And it's always like still a nervous process. Obviously I know what I can draw, but it's kind of different thing when you do a comic. It's not like I'm worried how the particular panel gonna look like or particular page gonna look like. It's just the consistency of the whole scene. I wanna feel like the whole scene is coming together and the look of the whole scene is working, because again, you can draw the the panel very well, you can draw a page very well. But to me, drawing this once does not mean success. What means success is drawing the whole scene, that it feels like whole, that it feels consistent, that it flows well, that going from page to page, it all just feels like one scene. It's just like in the movie, you feel like this was filmed in the same location, just with the same effects, like very consistent. I just wanted to, especially if like the characters that I'm drawing now, I haven't drawn for a long period of time, I want to make sure their face is spot on every panel, they look exactly the same, and their clothes look exactly the same, and their movement, like everything is just working. So for me, this is kind of what is very important. This is the first, I'm a little nervous at this stage. It's like, I don't want to say like I'm drawing this scene, everything is great. I just want to draw first 2 or first 3 pages first and have them completed, look at them and see, yeah, I see that this scene is working out. Another thing, usually if you guys saw how I'm drawing, I have like a lot of video recordings here when I'm showing how I'm drawing exactly. And a lot of them, how I'm doing them is that I'm actually having references, like the reference board, the photographs that I combine as a reference, but another set of references that I have as the previous of the scene that are already finished. So I cross references in between the two at the same time, and I actually, for the colors, usually tend to grab colors from my like other pages from the same scene, because when you grab colors from same photograph for different images, photograph has so much different colors that cannot be translatable in painting. Like usually it might just start looking a little bit different. And yeah, so I just like to have pages that the finish of the scene always open when I'm working on pages for the scene. So for me, finishing the couple of pages is necessary to get into my comfort zone of having my finished pages as a reference on the side. And I'm showing like this because this is usually how it looks for me. It's on this side when I have the references, and this on the side when I have the actual drawing. So yeah, and once that's done, it's really just go time and work time, and I have to just sit on my butt and draw. And the best thing for me is just get some audiobook. Yeah, this is like the steps that I go through when I'm starting working on the chapter. And yeah, now you know how it all starts. There's a lot of preparation, but I think preparation is really important, and sort of routine is very important, especially if you want to get something done and get something done efficiently, and you have the long project that lasts and you have to repeat this step again and again. You're gonna want to have a routine that you know if you follow, you're gonna get similar result, not in the sense like good or bad, but like consistent result with your previous result, if it makes sense. So yeah, this is the video for today. I decided to share this with you, and I hope it was interesting for you guys. If you have your own routines and your own ways how you started working on your chapters or certain elements of your story, let me know in the comments down below. I really want to hear. And thank you so much guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.